Hello and welcome back to the back roads and welcome back to Project MR2. It's been a little over a year since we debuted this car on the channel back in February 2021 and today we just want to give you an overview and have a look at what's happened to the car so far, what we want to do with it, and even further beyond that, what we'd love to do with it, but we need your help in terms of support and ideas. There's plenty I'd love to do, but I need your help. I want to see what you guys can do. And please remember, if you like the content, to leave us a like and subscribe to follow. It helps us get found and helps us keep going because we want to keep doing this, and we've got mega plans in the future. So without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so if you're new here, a quick lightning overview of the car. This is my rev-free 1995 MR2. It is a Caribbean blue car. It is a T-bar because I like having the sun. I bought it back in July 2020 after losing my job, and then I had 500 quid left and I thought, that's it, I can get the rest, scrounge it all together. Attainable dream car, purchased. Now I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going mad with it, which is what we'll talk about what we're doing in a bit. So there's a few reasons why I wanted to buy an MR2. The first one is when I first saw an AW11, a Mark 1 MR2, and I learned of the accessibility of the mid-engine layout. You could get the supercar layout for affordable price. I mean, this car was £3,500 I bought it for. It was 134,000 miles. Mostly garage, really nice condition. It's not too rough. It's got a few bits that need sorting. It's got aftermarket seats in it. It's got S2000 seats in it, which are quite comfortable, but we might be changing those at some point soon in the future. So the reason why I wanted to get an MR2 as my attainable dream car, there's a few factors. The first one is when I first learned of the mid-engine layout and how affordable it could be in the Toyota package. You got the supercar, not experience, but supercar dynamics at least, which is why the Ferrari jokes are there, and I'll get a badge on this at some point for a laugh. It was how accessible it was, and also I had the benefit of it didn't have the stigma of an exotic and things like that. And that was first when I learned about the AW11. It was my first Toyota love, and I really want to buy one at some point. I will hopefully get the three MR2s together at some point. But this car, I bought it in July 2020. I just lost my job, and then had a bit of luck again, and I was like, right, that's it, gonna do it now, whilst prices are a bit weird over lockdown. Bought this, and it's beautiful. I've loved every moment. I bought it 134,000 miles, and by the time this video comes out, I probably would have done about 12,000 miles in the car now. So we're getting up there, and it's only just beginning. We've got phase 2 starting very soon. Very soon, as in the next few months on this year. So please make sure you keep watching to learn more about that, where this is going turbo. Right, so the very first thing we did to the car after our introduction to the channel, just a little over a year ago, is installed a brand new exhaust to it. And it's the first modification I ever made to a car, which we can see if I do the Slav squat. The lovely Mongoose back box, which I actually bought off of an MR2 Championship race car. It did one round, and then they decided it was a bit too heavy, supposedly. So it's now on my car. So it's cheap marketplace find, polished it up a bit with some auto sol. Lovely, Liam did a great job of that. If you go back to watch episode 2, you'll be able to see the process of us doing that and installing it. It's pretty easy to install. You could definitely do it just on the gravel, and that's the biggest misconception about these cars is, you know, oh, subframes got to come out to do everything. You know, there was videos before that are quite popular where they've said, oh, you know, if you want to replace the exhaust, you've got to do that. I've replaced pretty much from the entire manifold back due to repairs and also modifications. Fine, just on my driveway, absolutely fine in the gravel, standard socket set, no worries. It's easy. You just put it through, job done. This is the biggest misconception, and what to know if you're looking at buying one of these cars is they are not terrifying to work on. If you watch the videos, you'll see I've got no idea what I'm doing, but I'm kind of comfortable working on this car. So I highly encourage anyone who wants one, don't be put off if you're afraid to get your hands dirty, because they're not too much of a trouble and you'll be able to learn a lot. There's plenty of access, to be honest, and it's great. I mean, this is why it's my attainable dream car. You know, I bought this car when I was 19 and I haven't looked back. You know, I tried immediately after that, what's the next car I'm going to buy? Nothing. I can't find anything else I want, and hence why it's becoming a MR2 turbo soon, because I'm cheating, because I'm too attached to old Marty boy here, and I don't want to sell him to buy a turbo. So simply, he's going to become a turbo. It's already a rev-free, so we've got the turbo spec brakes on it, turbo spec suspension. It's just the engine, the gearbox being changed really, and a bit of the gauge cluster. A few little odds and ends, but it's not going to be a perfect replica, because I'm not lying. It's an MR2 project. And that's what I want your help with. I need help with the Evo package, but we'll cover that a bit later. I don't know if you just saw a potential issue there, but there's not much clearance for me in here. We've got S2000 seats in the car, which is fitted aftermarket, and I love them. They look amazing, they're really good, you know, lovely modern design, they're comfortable, They fit nice, they're light, they're definitely lighter than the standard MR2 seats. The problem is that the way they're installed on the rails is I sit up quite high. And I have a helmet, which I'd love to be able to wear in the car and do some track days in it. I've never done a track day before, admittedly, so it's a pipe dream currently, but I think most of us, we want to pretend we're racing drivers for a bit, and that's a dream. But currently, I don't fit in here. My head is in the T-bar, so I need to fix that. Whether it's going to be lower rails, maybe we go fixed position on the seats, I'd rather not. Try and keep it a bit more usable, but that's something that we have to overcome maybe this year. Maybe we look at getting some Evo 8 Recaro seats in the car. I've tried those out before in another MR2 and they're quite comfortable, but they don't look as good. So it's a constant battle, and this is something that I'd love people's help with. If you know a potential solution for these, I could go back to standard MR2 seats, but they're not too nice, and it'd be fun to keep something different. So let me know your thoughts, because I'd love to do that. Inside as well, we want to maybe modernize it, you know, your standard doubled in. I'd like to get that as well for the future project with the turbos, that we can perhaps manage boost maps through the kind of Talk app, which you can get on the Android head units, not the Android Auto ones, the Android device ones. Just so I can manage boost map from there, and maybe keep an eye on some other stuff if I can get any more information on there. You know, we'll be installing a boost gauge in the car, and we'll be filming how we do that. We've got a Mori boost gauge ready to go in, and we'll do LED cluster as well to upgrade. But there's going to be a few more bits of information that we want to include. So that's going to be the main goal of that kind of overhaul. There's a few bits to overhaul in here just to get it perfect. And as I keep saying, MR2 Evo, I want to evolve the car to a different level from the standard MR2, kind of tweak where Toyota perhaps didn't have the budget, and maybe I can do it. But also I'm quite naive, is that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm thinking that perhaps I can just improve on the hundreds of engineers that worked on this product in the 90s or late 80s, when I believe this was designed in 1989 or something like that when it came out. So yeah, do I know more than probably a few hundred engineers at Toyota in Japan in the 80s? No. Am I going to pretend I do? Yes. So I keep saying it, but engine on this car. What are we dealing with? Let's have a look-see. Within the depths of this engine bay, which is a reasonably spacious engine bay, but I'd be scared to try and LS swap this car, quite scared. We have the 3SGE motor, which is the most powerful NA motor you could get from Toyota standard, until you got the Beams one, which is they're running about 190 horsepower, I think, on the Beams engine, revs a bit higher. Great motor, but very rare model of the MR2 to get those. They trade hands for probably 8 grand onwards for an all right one, and they're in turbo territory for price. So wasn't something I was seeking out, trying to get my attainable dream car, but I'd love to try one out. If anyone has one, I'd love to drive it. But this is the Rev 3 motor, which was the highest rated power for any of the NA MR2s beyond the Beams. It's 173 horsepower from standard, and it's great. It revs nicely up to about 7.2. Really has a great valve switchover later on. The noise is incredible, especially with the new Mongoose system on the car. But it's just not quite what I want. I feel I've gotten used to this now. I've figured out the car and how to drive it, but now it's time to kick it up a notch and get some boost into it. And I didn't want to, as much as I'd love to do a 2GR V6 swap into the car, 1, very expensive, 2, very complicated. I've never engine swapped a car before. I've changed the exhaust on this car. It's the first and only modification I've made to it myself. Now we're swapping the engine. You can understand that there's a bit of a dangerous level of progression there, but we're going to try it anyway, because why not? It's a bit of fun. I got the 3SGT motor from a Rev 2 car, so technically downgrading generation, but we'll see. But I got that quite cheap, and we've been slowly getting parts together so we can refresh that. We've got new parts starting to arrive now. We've nearly got all the old bits that we need to put on the car that we can't find brand new. Slowly getting there. And hopefully we'll be swapping the engine in this about May time, May 2022. So if you're watching this later on, hopefully it's already swapped and you can see us making boost all over the channel. But if not, I'm probably crying in a corner somewhere if it's beyond that point, but we'll find out. We're going to be looking at hopefully around 240 horsepower once the new engine's in. We'll have a new gearbox as well, and we'll also have an LSD in it, which I'm really excited for, because that'll help the handling, which is something we'll talk about in a bit, because the handling is something that I want to get sorted as well. And also, being a Japanese boy, is the fitment. It doesn't look quite right. So we've got to get that arch gap a bit smaller and see what we can work with on it. So, suspension and handling on this car, and fitment, needs some work. Still on the standard Rev 3 wheels. Rev 2, similar design, but kind of lighter spokes, or thinner at least. They're 15-inch wheels, which has made tyres a bit of a pain, and they're a staggered fitment as well. Recently had to change the Toyota Proxy TR1s that I had fitted on the car. I did 11,000 miles on them, and they're pretty much dead at that point on the rears. Front's still in really nice health. But there's not really any options for the 225s on the rear. So I want to change the wheels mostly for aesthetics, admittedly, as many of us do. But also so I have better tyre options. And that's going to be a bit of a controversial wheel choice because I want to get some free spokes, which not many people like. So we're going to be getting Advan SA3 wheels for the car. I'm trying to find a set, but I need to treat myself to those after the engine stop because that has to take priority. Got to get the car running and boosting first before we try and modify it anymore. And plus at least then I won't have completely foreign driving to it. And then next after that, I want coilovers. What kind of coilovers we go with for those to be determined. BC Racing, Meister R, Tyne, K&W, whatever, probably not K&W because they're really expensive. I'd love them, but very, very expensive. There's a lot of options out there for us, especially because thankfully the aftermarket scene for these cars is really strong. We can even go and experiment with springs if we'd like as well. But I want coilovers, not just for aesthetics to get the car a bit lower, because I mean, this arch gap is quite extreme, but it's practical. I want to bring the wheels out a bit more. I could put spacers, but that's boring and not aesthetically suitable. Yeah, so on the coilover front, again, we want to increase the handling of the car. I'd love to polybush the entire thing at some point. If that's going to benefit us, it's one of those things to be researched. I'd love to partner with someone who can help me figure out how to make this car drive great as a fast road setup, occasional track, but pretty much just fast road because you do a track day a few times a year, even for the really avid fans of it. So personally, you know, we want to get new bracing all in, coilovers, and just try and figure out how we can dial it in. With the new wheels that we'll get, we'll be going from 15 to 17 inches, so it's a bit of an extreme jump. But then with the 17s, we have some really great tyre options for the car, so we can get better grip despite the larger wheel profile. And we should be able to get this handling as good as we can get, at least, without redeveloping the entire suspension, because we're not going to do that. We're a little YouTube channel. It's coming out of my pocket from the day job, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So if anybody has suggestions for what you want to have done to MR2 suspension, if you've got any tricks that you've figured out from your own ones, please let me know. You know, if you're racing them and you've found out great ways to set them up, let me know. I want to get this to be one of the best functionally MR2s, at least. You know, I don't want perfect paintwork, I don't want perfect bodywork because I'll be scared to drive it, but just as fresh all around as we can get. I want it to be the whole package complete. We'll have the turbo engine, we'll have the best engine that Toyota had ever made for this car, the best option they gave at least. And you know, maybe the engine later on we get to 300 horsepower would be lovely, but I need to get it running in the car first before we do that. And it's gonna be an exciting project. So please encourage you all to, again, like and subscribe so you can follow along the journey with us and help in the journey as well. You know, give us feedback on what you want to see on the car and we will build it out from there. So the final question, which I've said a few times in this video, MR2 Evo. It's a bit of a silly concept. That's kind of because I just want to put Evo on the back of my car because everything sounds better when you have Evo in the title, you know. Mitsubishi Lancer, Evo. The 190E, Evo. The E30 M3, Evo. Evo's great. Is there a Lancia Evo? I feel like there's a Lancia Evo. Probably. Lancia would do that.
Well,
yes?
No, that's the Evo.
There we go. Cameraman says Evo, I don't know.
You said it was the first car you recommended.
Lancer Evo, no, Lancia, like Lancia,
Okay, all right,
the Italians.
Delta Integrale.
Evo?
Maybe.
There we go, we're counting it. Evo. Evo makes everything sound better. So even if it wasn't called already Evo, I've just made it better. Lancia owe me money. They have no money these days because they make rubbish cars, but that's beside the point. MR2 Evo, I want to make this better than Toyota did, but obviously for my very specific use case, if I want it to be a fast road car, just mega fun to drive. Obviously they're already mega fun to drive, but even better, I want it dialed in, quick, capable, and cool. You know, we're gonna get a body kit for it, kind of. I want to get a Tom's TO20 front bumper and rear wing at the least, maybe a rear bumper. Side skirts probably not, because I quite like how they look without side skirts. But I need your help because I'm new to the MR2 game. I've owned this car for about 18 months and I'm already trying to do an engine swap on it. and all of this other stuff, as you usually do. The projects are never ending, and at first I took the mick out of it. I was like, it's fine, I know what I'm going to do, just go to engine swap it, job done. But since I've bought more bits for the engine which I don't need, and I've nearly bought other stuff that I don't need, and now I'm like, oh, I want all this stuff, and there's a long list, and I've done the maths, and it's quite expensive, so it'd be quite a long project. But what can I do to improve MR2s? What do they need? Don't say Ferrari badges, please, because you'll hurt me and I'll cry. But, you know, suspension. What suspension should I get? Maestro, BC, someone else? Is there some independents in the MR2 community that can help out and do great work with the car? Let me know. Is there any tricks of the trade? Let me know. Anything. I want to make this the best build possible, and I want to involve everyone that we can, so we can have a really cool MR2. Yeah, maybe the coolest one in England, probably not the world, because the US car scene has some ridiculous cars and they're terrifying to deal with, frankly, and they all scare me. But if we can keep it local to the United Kingdom and Europe, you know, we'll get the best one we can do here, and then maybe we'll fly out to the States with our YouTube millions and compete and then die to every single vehicle out there, because they're all very quick and all have 1,000 horsepower. But that's it. MR2 Evo, leave that with you, do some research, let us know. Please like, follow, subscribe to follow along with the content, and let us know. We've got plenty of other series on the channel as well as Project MR2. We've got Project 944 for our Porsche 944. We have the Subaru Legacy, which I have in my daily drive. We've got the E46, and we've got loads of other stuff going on, events, motorsport, everything. So please follow, have a look through our back catalogue, see if there's anything that you like, that you want to watch. And if you fancy supporting us for the price of a cup of coffee every month, you can join us on a channel membership and you'll get some emotes in the chat. Please join our Discord server if you want to come and chat with us. Easiest way to get hold of any of us. If you want to yell at me on social media for being an idiot, I'm at Jared Drives pretty much everywhere. And we're at the Backroads TBR everywhere else, including our own podcast, if you want to keep up to date week by week on what's happening. I've been Jared from the Backroads. This has been Project MR2. Thank you for joining me, and have a lovely day.
Wow.